Hey there guys, Nordic Warrior here, welcome back to my video game review series. So today we're going to be looking at Halo 4, released in 2012, developed by 343 Industries. So before I go any further, a bit of backstory about my history with the game. Those of you who have been following my channel will know that earlier this year, I reviewed the original Halo trilogy from Bungie. To quickly sum up my thoughts on those games, the first game was a fantastic shooter from the time, though in my opinion it had some pretty major flaws that needed addressing in the sequels, and as far as I'm concerned the sequels certainly did that. Halo 2, which came out a few years later, was a massive improvement over the first. It basically took everything that worked about the first game, and improved and expanded upon it, fixing the controls and technical issues, as well as advancing the story. The third game from 2007 is in my personal opinion a certified masterpiece. Genuinely one of the greatest first-person shooters of all time, even when compared to the shooters of today, and in my personal opinion, is where the Halo series peaked. With how much I enjoyed the original trilogy, it goes without saying that I was very interested in Halo 4 when it came out, but at the same time, I was a little bit apprehensive about it for a few reasons. Firstly because I was a bit haloed out at that point, and I felt it would be very difficult for a fourth game to top the third, with how great it was. In addition to that, Halo 4 was the first game in the series not to be developed by Bungie, so you essentially had a game that wasn't really in high demand, with a very high standard set by the series, and a new developer taken on the task. I got the game a while after its release, and I played through it, but the weird thing is, I barely remembered anything about it. Seriously, I completed the game once, and never played it again until very recently. And I genuinely barely remembered a single thing about it, showing how little an impact the game made on me. I think I've talked on here before about how sometimes mediocrity is worse than failure, since if a game is flat out bad, it can be bad in an interesting way. You at least remember it and have something to criticise. But in the case of Halo 4, it just felt so generic, so inoffensive and so by the numbers to me, that I basically disregarded it immediately. Nonetheless, I decided to check the game out again, for the first time in years, complete it and give my thoughts on it. So obviously the game is a first-person shooter just like all the games in the Halo series. The game takes place several years after the events of Halo 3. Cortana wakes Master Chief up from cryosleep, as the ship comes under attack from the Covenant.
Chief! Easy. You've been out for a while.
Where are we?
We're still adrift on the Dawn.
Why did you wake me?
Hang on. Bringing your systems online now.
You find out pretty early on that these are a splinter faction of the Covenant known as the Prometheum Knights. You also find out that Cortana is starting to malfunction due to her age. Playing through the campaign again, I was immediately concerned about it, because it seemed pretty clear to me from very early on that the story was going to focus heavily on an implied romance between Master Chief and Cortana, which, correct me if I'm wrong, was never even alluded to in the original trilogy, and let's be honest, it's just weird. Cortana is just a hologram and an AI.
I need you.
It seemed to me like it was going to be some terrible DeviantArt-esque fanfiction or something like that. And yeah, that's basically the core plot of the game. Cortana is losing her mind, and Master Chief wants to save her because he wants to bang her or something. Yeah, you can tell why this game went right over my head back in the day, and didn't make an impact on me, but I digress. They went from the epic events of Halo 3 to this weird, cringy fanfiction style romance between Master Chief and his HUD/computer. Come on, man. There is another aspect to the plot, of course, with the ship basically crashing on a planet called Requiem and having to find a way to escape. Along the way, they run into a new enemy called the Diadect, who takes control of the Covenant and attacks a UNSC faction on the ship Infinity, who arrives after receiving Master Chief's distress signal. If truth be told, I found the plot utterly boring and so generic. It's hard to explain why, but it just didn't manage to hold my interest at all. The game has a lot of cutscenes and dialogue to convey the story, and it just bored me the whole way through. I never felt as if there was any effort put into the game's writing, and it was all just a reason to have Master Chief shoot more enemies. So yeah, that's all I really want to say about the game's story. If truth be told, it sucks. Moving on. How is the actual gameplay, and how good are the shooting mechanics? Because of course these are the things that truly matter in a game like this. Pretty good actually. I mean, it's a Halo game, so based on that alone, the shooting mechanics and the combat are practically flawless. But that's kind of the problem, isn't it? It's just another Halo game. There's nothing about this game that really adds to the overall formula, or improves it in any way, or makes it stand out. It's basically just another Halo 3, with a garbage story, and not as good set pieces, making the game entirely forgettable. I honestly can't think of a single thing about Halo 4 that sets it apart from the rest of the series. I mean, most of the levels are just generic, copy and paste hallways, with the same enemies over and over again. Sure, there are a few new enemies added, but none of them are really that interesting or memorable. And these new enemies, while a welcome addition, just feel a bit of a missed opportunity to me, like there wasn't really much effort put into them. I mean, it's not like the original Halo trilogy used up all the creative possibilities in regards to its level design and world building. In fact, there really wasn't that many enemy types added to the series as it went on. This was a great opportunity for 343 to really add a whole bunch of creative ideas to the overall Halo mythos, and they really didn't for the most part, as far as I'm concerned. Most of the weapons are the same, the enemies all feel familiar and generic, even most of the vehicles are the same. There's also no boss battles in the game. I don't know what the Halo series has against boss battles. Again, another wasted opportunity, but I digress. There's practically nothing here that advances the series in any way. It's just more of the same. Sure, they added a Mantis, which is pretty badass. It's basically a giant mech. And some of the driving sequences in the game, like the previous games, are pretty good. For example, the one with the tank is awesome. But did they really top any of the driving sequences in Halo 3? I don't think so. I think they were so much better. There was a level where you ride a giant vehicle called a Mammoth and travel with a squad of Marines. But again, I've seen that kind of thing done so much better in the past. I feel like I'm repeating myself at this point, but honestly that's all that comes to mind for me when I think of Halo 4. It's just the most boring, generic, by the numbers, corporate game I've ever played. And that's not even to say that it's necessarily a bad game. In fact, if truth be told, it's pretty good all things considered. It's a fun shooter for the most part. The graphics and presentation are incredible for 2012. The game looks absolutely beautiful. The backgrounds and environments are aesthetically pleasing, and the character models look great, particularly in the cutscenes. So in short, it's a great looking game. It's probably in my top 200 favourite games. But what can I really say about the game that I haven't already said about other shooters in the past? I mean, what is there? What does this game actually have to offer that Halo 3 didn't already years before it? It feels to me like Bungie were done with the series and had no interest in continuing the story anytime soon, but Microsoft didn't want to let the series go into obscurity and end, given how much money it was generating for them. And they ended up giving the license to a new developer to work on. And therein lies the problem. This is a corporate game, made purely for the sake of generating money. A game that was cynically made, rather than made with any sort of genuine passion or creativity. It's a game that was made out of necessity, rather than for any sort of substantial reason. It's disappointing because I really don't know what else to say about it. It's just a generic copy and paste Halo game that doesn't live up to the standard of the third game, or the standard set by the rest of the series. That's pretty much all I have to say about Halo 4. Is it a bad game? No, it's not bad at all. But is it worth your time? No, I don't think it is. Because anything this game has to offer, you could already get from previous games in the series. With that in mind, it's hard to even grade a game like Halo 4. It's a great looking game and a competent one to play, but it's just kind of bland and forgettable in my personal opinion. Thanks for watching guys. I know this was a pretty bizarre review compared to how I usually do things, but those are my honest thoughts about Halo 4. Let me know what you guys think. Stay tuned for more retrospective video game reviews. Once again, I have a lot of reviews coming to the channel in the near future. Thanks for watching and God bless.